Carbon crazy. The feds betting billions on junk science. Conservative majority federal government hunting down carbon. With the United Nations? Seriously? Who's going to stand up to the Green Gang at the UN? Tom Harris joins us in a moment. What really has me shaking my head is our federal government, a Tory majority government, eagerly pursuing huge carbon reduction initiatives. Huge waste of time and money being spent on junk global warming science. But hey, science aside, as we've said before, Canada churns out less than 2% of global emissions. Even if we cut carbon to zero, it would accomplish nothing. Tom Harris from the International Climate Science Coalition has been following this closely. Tom, the latest data in Scientific American is suggesting that 48% of confident, conservative, white men believe the effects of global warming will never happen versus 9% of other adults. Tom, are you a conservative, confident, white man in deep denial of the Suzuki-Gore bandwagon agenda?
Well, I guess I can't deny that I'm a white man and a man. I don't know if I'm a conservative. It depends on the issue. On this issue, I'm certainly a conservative. On other issues, I'm not, which, of course, is the whole point of ICSC, and that we're nonpartisan. But no, certainly when it comes to global warming and carbon dioxide control, it's all pretty silly.
Well, let me just ask you this, because, I mean, the Globe and Mail was putting this stuff out, and this is another form of bigotry. You can be bigoted as you want, as much as you want, against whites, against conservatives, against males, against Christians. Okay, we know what the laundry list is. It's the same list that the Human Rights Commission likes to trot out there as the people and the kinds of people that are wicked and evil, and you've got to watch out for them. But this idea that the conservative white male is the most risk-averse in the world, therefore, he is a reactionary. Therefore, he doesn't want to absorb any kind of new information because it's just something about risk. And they marry the idea of risk to being reactionary, and it goes on and on. I mean, okay, so it's we talk about junk science. This is junk social science. Here's the question, though. Do you think this kind of junk social science will help their cause, or is this just an aspect of desperate folks who can't make their case, who decide they're going to get bigoted against those people who aren't buying the case?
Yeah, I think it's just a lazy man's approach. It's like when people say, oh, what was your background? Who did you work for before? Who are your funders? These are simply ways to avoid the difficult job of trying to understand the science of climate change and, in fact, whether or not we're causing dangerous climate change, because that's all that really matters. Humans may be contributing a little bit, but it has to be dangerous climate change before it's even a public policy issue, let alone worth tens or hundreds of billions of dollars to work on. And that's all that really counts. Here's a quote I should just read to you very quickly from Chris Essex and Ross McKittrick's book called Taken by Storm. He said, "Climate is one of the most challenging open problems in modern science. Some knowledgeable scientists believe that the climate problem can never be solved." So it's hilarious when you hear people like fruit-fly geneticists and Al Gore and people like that saying the science is settled. These experts are saying it may never be settled. And certainly the idea that CO2, plant food, it's necessary for plant photosynthesis and for all life, to say that now is a toxic substance that we have to control under the Canadian Environmental Protection Act, I mean, that's just crazy.
And beyond that, guys who look like you and me are toxic.
Yeah, that's right. Us horrible white men. But the funny thing is,
killers.
When you think about it, many of the advocates on both sides are white males because, of course, many white males go into the technical fields. I think if you look at engineering in Canada, you'd probably find that the vast majority of them, same in science, are probably white males. So, I mean, yeah, there are lots of white males on both sides of these technical topics.
Lots of white males in technology and engineering. No shoot, Sherlock. No,
That's
shoot.
Right.
I can say that on TV, can I? Okay, what about the business about the Harper government? Mostly, I guess, white conservative males who seem to be maybe beyond pandering, maybe actually spending a whole lot of money on the Al Gore Suzuki agenda. Talk to me about what the Harper government, majority Tory government, is doing that you feel is not necessarily constructive to a good economy.
Well, one of the things they're doing is they're leaving carbon dioxide on the list of toxic substances. You know, that's what the Liberals did just in the last days of the Paul Martin regime. They completely yielded to the environmentalists. John Bennett, for example, if you look back at the hearings in 2005, was saying, geez, you know, if you put carbon dioxide under the toxic list, we can in fact control it with regulations. And he was exactly right. And unfortunately, they yielded to that. Now, the Conservatives, they said, well, this is crazy. Bob Mills, for example, who was the environment critic for the Conservatives, he said, are you going to declare baby's breath toxic? You know, I mean, it's just stupid. But they did pass it because all it is needed is for the cabinet to agree and for the Governor General to rubber stamp it. It doesn't have to go before the legislature. And so similarly, the Conservatives can remove carbon dioxide from the list of toxics by the same mechanism. They can simply remove it by an order from cabinet and the Governor General signs it. And they should have done that as soon as they came in, but they left it in. You know, they were scared. Oh, we don't have a majority yet. We can't annoy the environmentalists, my God. So that now they have a majority government, you'd think, okay, at last, they'll take CO2 off this ridiculous toxic list and treat it like it really is, which is, you know, benign. But in fact, they're doing the opposite. They're now using the Liberals' trick of adding it to the toxic list. They're using it to create new regulations. Now, the funniest thing, Charles, I just got to read you one thing really quickly. If you go to the Environment Canada website and you get into the SEPA regulations and you click on the list of toxic substances and then you click on carbon dioxide, this is what it says. This substance is not classified as toxic, but remains managed under Schedule 1 of SEPA, which is the list of toxins, in order to enable the government the use of a variety of preventative or control actions. So it's completely corrupt. I mean, you could declare anything you want toxic, so you can use the regulations to control it, and that's exactly what they're doing. They've just come out with regulations against coal-fired electricity to reduce their CO2 emissions, and in fact, they're removing coal from the list of possible energy options for the future, and this is going to be very, very expensive. Fortunately, until the 26th of October, the public can comment on this and say, hey, you know, control pollution, of course, but don't close these stations or prevent the opening of new coal stations in the future by declaring CO2 toxic. If you go to our
Tom,
website...
I've only got a few seconds.
Sure.
Pardon me for being a conservative white male. In 30 seconds or less, what is it costing us? What does it cost to the wallet?
It's very hard to say. The very optimistic estimate is that Alberta, for example, will have to pay $2.2 billion more in electricity costs over a 15-year period. But they're assuming something that is a very big assumption. They're assuming natural gas will stay cheap and that we have lots of it and that we don't run into technical problems or political problems with getting natural gas from fracking. So it's a big danger, it's a big risk to remove coal from our future energy supply.
Tom Harris, thank you.
Thank you.
As always. All right. CO2. Toxic. Tell that to my tree.